Welcome to the Cardboard Crash Course. Let's learn how to play My Little Scythe. The first thing we do for setup in My Little Scythe is select our animal kingdom. They come in 7 different colors, and each player will select 2 seekers in that color. They'll also take the matching color base camp tile. Additionally, each player will need an identical player mat to keep in front of them. We'll set out the player board and place our base camps on it according to the base camp chart on the first page of the rulebook. The base camp tile goes on top of the player board in these spaces here, and the seeker miniatures can be placed on top of the base camp. Each of the 2 seeker miniatures are functionally identical, so if later on you choose to paint them, don't worry about the 2 differences. Each player will have a set of 6 tokens and an action marker. We'll place the action marker somewhere near the board and the 4 trophy tokens on the trophy spaces on their player board. Place each player's friendship token on space 3 of the friendship track, and place each player's pie token on space 3 of the pie track. There's also a space on the game board for the quest deck. Shuffle the quest deck and place it face down on that spot. Then do the same with the shuffled face down magic spell deck, but then give each player 1 secretly face down to keep in front of them. Players can simply keep these magic spells face down next to their player board. There are also power-up tiles that come in both a move and a make variety. We'll shuffle these and place them face down on their respective spots on the game board. We'll now populate the game board. In order to do this, we'll find the Castle Everfree spot on the center of the game board and place the setup tile randomly face down on top of it. Flipping this setup tile over, we'll get to see a random assortment of different tokens. This is telling us, due to how many players are in the game and where the base camps are, where tokens and quests should be placed. For example, in a 3-player game, this, and this camp are all in the game, so we'll place those types of tokens, quests, apples, and diamonds on the game board. For example, because this setup tile orientation told us to place a diamond, a quest, and an apple in this orientation over by this base camp on the bottom right corner, we've done so here. Spaces in front of inactive base camps are not populated and are completely ignored. After setting up the game board by populating it using the setup tile, we can discard the setup tile back into the game box. Finally, we'll shuffle the 8 personality cards and give 1 secretly to each player. That is that player's secret personality for the game, and allows them to get one of their trophies. We'll take all of the unused personality cards and discard them back into the game box. They won't be needed this game. A turn in My Little Scythe is fairly straightforward. On your turn, you have to select and execute an action on your player mat. To select an action, you place your action marker on any of these dashed line circles on the player mat. So for example, I could place it on this move action space here. You have to place it on a different action as the previous turn. So at the beginning of the game, you have anything as an option since your action marker starts off your player mat. But for example, on my next turn, I would have to move it from this move space onto either of these seek spaces or any of the 3 make spaces. Keep in mind that you can perform actions within the same type of action than the previous turn. It just has to be a different action within that, or a completely different action entirely. After you've taken the action and possibly earned up to 1 trophy, play then proceeds clockwise to the next player. A turn in My Little Scythe is really that simple. You either choose to move, which you move your 2 seeker miniatures around the game board, seek in order to roll dice to discover new gems, quests, and apples, or you can make by spending apples and gems in order to create pies, magic spells, or power-ups. You start with a random first player and move 1 action at a time around the game board, possibly scoring up to 1 trophy on your turn, until 1 player has scored all 4 trophies. Once that happens, the end of the game is triggered. Let's look now at specifics on the 3 actions: moving, seeking, and making, starting with the move action. The move action allows both seekers to make their own independent moves on the game board. When a seeker moves, they may move up to 2 spaces without carrying any gems or apples, or they can move up to 1 space while carrying along with them any gems or apples on their previous space. Seekers may only move to adjacent spaces, meaning that they're right next to each other. However, portals with these pink outlines, like this one and this one here, are treated as adjacent for movement. That means if I wanted to carry along this apple, I could move a single space to this portal here, because this portal and this portal are considered one space away from each other. Castle Everfree is also considered a portal, but jumping to this space from a different portal is only permitted while making deliveries. Let's discuss how to make a delivery. Whenever you move a seeker to carry exactly 4 gems or exactly 4 apples into the Castle Everfree spot, you make a delivery. A seeker can only move onto the Castle Everfree spot to complete this delivery. If you don't have the number of gems or apples required, you cannot make the delivery, and you cannot enter Castle Everfree. The first thing that happens with a delivery is that delivered resources are removed from the map. So you discard them back into the game box. Then take a trophy off of your map and place it on the correct trophy spot. If we had delivered apples instead, we place it on this spot, but because we delivered gems, this bottom left corner spot is perfect for us. Finally, at the end of a delivery, place the seeker that delivered those resources back onto your color's base camp. If you ever end your move action with one or both seekers in the same space as another player's seeker or seekers, then a pie fight will occur. Firstly, as part of the pie fight, the attacking player will lose 1 friendship. The players will then determine how many pies their seekers will throw at the other seekers. The number of pies that your seekers can throw cannot be higher than 7, and it also cannot be higher than the number of pies on the pie track. Each player will take a pie fight dial, and each player will determine secretly how many pies that they throw. Because the green player wants to throw the maximum number of pies, he'll choose 7 on the track from 0 to 7. Each player may also include a number of magic spell cards to add to the fight. This increases the final number with how many pies you throw plus any number of spell cards that you add. You can only add a number of spell cards equal to how many seekers you have in the fight. So because the green player here only has 1 seeker, they can only add up to 1 magic spell card. Each player will then simultaneously reveal their pie fight dials. The green player's pie fight dial had 7 thrown pies with a magic spell that increased it to 9. However, the yellow players had 3 thrown pies, but they had 7 on their 2 magic spell cards to increase the final total to 10. They could include 2 magic spells because they had 2 seekers in the fight. This means that the yellow player wins the pie fight because they have the larger number. If these 2 total numbers were instead tied, then ties go to the attacking player. Unfortunately though, in this case, the defending player wins. The winning player will place one of their trophies on the section of the trophy track with the pie fight symbol. Just like all other trophies, you can only score up to 1 pie fight trophy. The loser then removes any of the seekers involved in the pie fight from the game board and places them back on their base camp. The final thing that can happen during movement is a quest, by ending your movement action with 1 or both seekers on quest tokens. To complete the quest, remove that quest token from the game board and then draw a quest card. Quest cards are broken into 3 different sections. You choose one of these sections, either the top or middle of the quest options or the no thanks option, and complete that. If you don't want to do one of the 2 positive sections or can't afford it, then you choose the no thanks and put this quest card on the bottom of the quest deck. But if you complete either of the top 2 sections, which are usually largely positive, then place the quest card face down near your player board. Sometimes quests require you to pay different amounts of pies, friendship, or resources. If in the case that it requires you to pay resources, you may pay them from any of the spaces where you have a seeker, not just the space with the seeker that's completing the quest. But if a quest requires you to pay pies or friendship, just move that counter down on that specific track. The next type of action is one of the 2 different type of seek actions. To seek, we'll roll a combination of 4 dice, as shown on that seek action on our player mat. In this case, it's 2 red dice, 1 blue die, and 1 gold die. When rolling the dice, it'll determine what and where different resources will appear on the game board. Before we look at the dice specifically, take a look at the game board and see that it has different color sections. These are the different regions in the Land of Palm. The dice shows not only what we place, but also where we place it. For example, this die shows a green apple. So we would place from the supply in the game box an apple in the green section. The player who rolled the dice has the control where they end up. You can place apples or gems that are rolled on empty spaces, spaces with your own seekers, or even spaces with opponents' seekers. However, if you place any resources on a space with opponent seekers, make sure to gain 1 friendship. Thanks for being so nice. Unlike resources, quest tokens cannot be placed on spaces with seekers or other quest tokens, but we could place it here or here. Remember that portals and the Castle Everfree spot are not considered part of regions, and don't have anything placed on them because of the seek action. This is because they don't have any colors associated with them other than pink. Finally on the player board are the 3 different make actions. When you place your action on the make section of your player mat, you'll pay the amount of resources shown on the left to gain something shown on the right. For each of these actions, you have to pay the full cost and gain the full benefit. So for example, the action I chose allowed me to remove 2 gems that I control from the game board in order to draw a magic spell card and add it to my hand. That action is pretty simple and straightforward, and so is the top one, which is turning 2 apples into 2 pies on the pie track. However, the bottom one allows you to power up. If you chose that one instead, then you'd spend 1 apple and 1 gem in order to power up your player board. In order to power up, you'll choose from either the move or the make stack, and draw 3 tiles from the top of your chosen stack. You'll get to thoroughly look through each of these different power-up tiles and then choose one of them to power up your player board with. In this case, we chose the make tile, and we'll place it on top of our previous make section. Since we displaced our action token with this, we'll place it on the new power-up section on the bottom of this make action board. We'll then return the 2 unchosen power tiles to the bottom of their corresponding deck. Power tiles allow you the options of completely new actions, and it's a permanent improvement of your player board. You can only upgrade each section once, so because I upgraded the make section, I couldn't upgrade it again later in the game. However, it does allow for some crazy new abilities, like this center one, which allows me to pay 2 gems in order to draw a magic spell card and gain a friendship. The final thing to touch on is the trophy track. We already determined how to gain a trophy from delivering either gems or apples, or by winning a pie fight. But you can also gain a trophy by having 8 pies, 2 completed quests, 3 drawn magic spells at a time, 8 friendship, or 2 power-ups. On your turn, if you've completed any of these, place your trophy on that section of the game board. Your ability to earn trophies can be affected by a few different things. Namely, your personality card that was given to you at the beginning of the game. Each one has a different ability shown on it, and affects a different type of trophy, this one being the Pie Fight trophy. Each one of them will make that specific trophy slightly easier for you to complete. This one, for example, says that earning the trophy can happen even if I lose, as long as I use 1 or more magic spells in that pie fight. Each one of these cards affects a different type of trophy. So look out and keep in mind which trophy you should be headed for. It also allows for a couple sneaky plays, because people won't know which personality card you have in your hand. There is also a friendship criteria to earning trophies. Even if you meet the criteria of a trophy, if your friendship drops into one of the 3 bottom sections, then you cannot earn the trophy, and you keep the trophy on your player mat. You can only complete each trophy 1 time, but as soon as a player places their 4th trophy, the end of the game is triggered. Let's see how to win. As soon as that happens and one player places their 4th trophy on their turn, then each other player will gain 1 final turn. Something is different with this final turn, however, and that's that there's no longer a limit to only placing 1 trophy a turn. So if a player places their 4th trophy and you're going after them, you could earn up to 4 trophies all in 1 turn, as long as you meet the criteria for them. After this final go around the table, the player who has placed the 4th trophy wins the game. If there's multiple players that placed their 4th trophy, then the game ends in a tie and we go to tiebreakers. Ties are fairly common in this game, and the tie is resolved by the player who has the highest friendship. If there's still a tie, then the player who controls the most amount of resources, being gems or apples, then wins the game. If there's still a tie, then those players share the victory as the new combined rulers of Palm. Thank you for watching this video, and thank you to Stonemaier for sending this copy. If you want to learn a great family card game that takes a shorter amount of time, check out the card in the top right-hand corner. Without further ado, have a great rest of your day. I'll see you next time on the Cardboard Crash Course.